You might think that Lois is just a cartoon mother who has her flaws like we all do, but after analyzing the whole 23 seasons, I found out that she might actually be the biggest villain in the whole TV show, and I'm going to prove it to you. For starters, let's talk about her insane addictive tendencies. I mean, does anyone remember Breaking Out is Hard to Do? It's the 9th episode of season 4, and it shows Lois going on an absolutely insane shoplifting spree. When it's time to pay for her groceries, Lois realizes she hasn't brought enough cash. Now, this means she's probably just going to put it back, right? Wrong. Lois shows extremely poor judgment and puts the ham in her purse. Next thing you know, Lois has completely lost her mind. Like, she goes from sneaking one ham out of the supermarket to emptying an entire store of some pretty valuable goods. Oh, in case you're wondering, she does not feel bad about it.
Oh my God, that was such a rush. I'm alive!
But if there's one person who can maybe get through to Lois, it's Brian, and he tries to do just that when he catches her in the act.
Lois, you're in an auto parts store stealing mufflers. This is worse than that Winona Ryder thing.
Are you saying I'm a klepto?
Yes, you sure are, Lois. You're like the dictionary definition of a klepto. But, well, it seems like Brian's able to talk some sense into her, or at least it seems like it. Even though she realizes that what she's doing is wrong, she still tries to bamboozle Brian with belly rubs while she tries to steal another muffler. This is where her manipulation comes in, but you ain't seen nothing yet. You see, Joe learned something kind of shocking while watching the news.
In other news, police are still looking for the culprit who stole a valuable Matisse painting from the Quahog Museum of Art.
A Matisse painting.
Yep, Joe is officially onto her. So even though Brian finally convinces Lois that she should give back everything she stole, it seems like too little too late. All of a sudden, the Griffins go from their comfortable middle-class suburban home to a crappy apartment in Chinatown, all because Lois wanted to feel alive again or whatever. And let me tell you, it's impossible to leave Lois alone with anything without risking her getting addicted. Just check out the time Brian got prescribed pain med. Next thing you know, she's acting all wacky.
Hey, Peter's underwear. You've been through a lot, huh? I'm gonna fold you nice.
To absolutely nobody's surprise, Lois quickly starts jonesing for those pain meds, which, need I remind you, are meant for Brian's arm injury. And when Brian takes the last pill, which, you know, he was literally told to do by a doctor, Lois insists that they got and get some more.
Lois, I'm good. I don't want to get hooked on those things.
Who wants to go for a ride in the car?
Manipulation? Check. Putting her dog's life at risk? Double check. And do you want to know why she thinks she can get away with stuff like this? In a nutshell, she is one narcissistic individual. I'm pretty sure the time she became mayor of Quahog proves that. It starts off looking pretty nice, with the Griffins enjoying a nice vacation by a lake. There's swimming, fun, and games, and child abuse, but overall, it's about as good as it gets for this family. But things start to go sideways pretty quickly when they realize that there's something wrong with the water. What could possibly cause these kinds of symptoms, you ask? Oh, just some industrial waste. No biggie. Or, well, it's actually a huge biggie. So can someone take a look at that maybe? Well, Lois manages to get into a room with Mayor West, which is actually pretty impressive, I'm not gonna lie, but he doesn't seem all that interested in cleaning up the lake. So what does the narcissist that is Lois Griffin do? File a complaint? Tell the press? Nope. She decides she's going to run for mayor. Here's where things get really messed up, because she ropes pretty much everyone she knows into this vanity campaign. Chris seems pretty committed to helping his mom get elected. Like, the kid barely gets out of bed to take a shower, and here he is going door to door spreading the word about Lois's candidacy. Heck, Peter even managed to rope Cleveland, Quagmire, and Joe into the campaign, although he does seem to think that Lois being mayor would mean he'd get to do whatever he wants. Joe seems to take this way too seriously, going as far as to threaten a victim making a complaint to force her to vote for Lois. Peter and Cleveland even shoot a commercial together to target the borderline alcoholic vote, maybe? I mean, I'll give them points for trying. Sure, election day comes and goes, and it's finally time to find out if all that hard work paid off. Lois is at the edge of her seat, but like, does anyone really think she can win this? Well, it turns out that she can, in fact, win the election for mayor of Quahog. It's an upset victory, and at first, Lois seems genuinely committed to fixing things. Of course, she doesn't hesitate before manipulating the entire town with propaganda.
We have intelligence that suggests that Hitler is plotting with the Legion of Doom to assassinate Jesus, using the lake as a base.
A few days later, reports of the lake being all fresh and clean again hit the local news, so it seems like Lois managed to do what she promised after all. Of course, Lois is right there to bask in all that glory, although she seems to be unusually well dressed. Like, where'd you get that purse, Lois? It looks expensive.
Don't tell anybody, Brian, but I was a little naughty. I may have dipped into the tax surplus.
There you go. I knew Lois was going to get back to her old trick sooner or later, and it turned out to be sooner this time around. And the worst part is, she doesn't even seem to realize how messed up it is. In fact, she she goes all in on the corruption, heading down to luxury stores where she starts trying on the most expensive furs they've got. Now, this coat is worth over $4,000, so even Lois doesn't have enough taxpayer dollars to afford it. The good thing is, a representative of Quahog Oil is right around the corner, ready to offer to buy her the coat. What does he want in return? Oh, just that his company be allowed to dump industrial waste right back into that lake. And before you can say oil, Lois is standing looking real proud while a corrupt corporate executive gets ready to poison Quahog's water supply all over again. Even if we ignore the ways she puts the entire town of Quahog at risk, Lois is kind of a threat to her entire family. Like, remember when Meg went through that whole lesbian phase?
I'm not a lesbian. I'm a super huge mega lesbian.
Lois really has to rub her superiority into her daughter's face. Like, she becomes kind of obsessed with convincing Meg that she's not a lesbian, and it leads to something downright creepy if you ask me. She already goes way over the line when she tells Meg to prove that she's a lesbian by kissing her girlfriend, but once again, she's only getting started. She then walks up to this girl, who need I remind you is a teenager in high school, and starts smooching her right on the lips. Like, did I miss something here? Did the law suddenly change, or is Lois so obsessed with one-upping her own daughter that she'll make out with a minor to prove it? The honest to goodness truth is Lois just couldn't imagine someone finding her daughter attractive, or even that Meg could be in a healthy relationship at all. She straight up smooched her girlfriend because of how self-absorbed she was, and this isn't the only time she screwed her daughter over, and it's all because of one big reason. Believe it or not, Lois is jealous of Meg. Just think about it. Meg's got her whole life in front of her, and Lois, well, she has to deal with antics like this.
Lois, you have a gray hair.
What?
Inch and a half lefty apart.
And Meg? Well, Lois definitely tries super hard to make her feel ugly, but the fact is, Meg has the potential to be pretty good looking when she grows up, and it's not just me saying that, by the way. Like, Quagmire definitely seemed to think she was attractive enough to ask out, and say what you will about Quagmire, he definitely has standards. Or at least I haven't seen him date any outright ugly chicks so far. But okay, you might be saying, that's Quagmire, he'd stick his hog into anything that's breathing. Well, to that I say, Quagmire's not the only one. Brian's definitely on the same page as well. Like, when no one wanted to go to the dance with Meg, he decided to step up. And when Connie tries to bully Meg on this special day, Brian stands up for her.
You see, Connie, you're popular because you developed early and started giving hand jobs when you were 12, but now you can't stand to look at yourself in the mirror because all you see is a whore.
God damn, Brian, and he doesn't stop there. He tells Meg that she doesn't deserve all the crap that she gets and follows it up by smooching her right on the lips. I mean, is it legal? Technically a bit creepy, definitely, but does it prove that Meg might actually be attractive? I'd say so, yeah. And in case you need more proof, I'm going to give it to you. In season 18 premiere Yacht Rocky, Meg ran into this kid named Chad who seemed super into her. And you know what? They seem to have a pretty cute thing going. Oh, and who could forget the time Meg had a whole bunch of hicks in the deep south enchanted by her northern good looks. Look, Lois just doesn't like it when her daughter gets any attention. So you can imagine how she felt when Meg walked in one day and said she had a boyfriend.
No, really, I have a boyfriend. His name is Anthony.
Lois reacts to this in the absolute weirdest way possible.
But there's nothing wrong with him.
Yup, Lois has her heart set on young Anthony from the get-go. Now she'll probably excuse her lewd behavior by pointing to Peter, saying things like,
Trust me, she ain't what she used to be, all right? Once you get those pants off, it's like 2 sagging pressed hams and a slice of pizza.
look, I get that stuff, like that can make you doubt yourself, but that doesn't excuse Lois literally perving on Meg and her boyfriend. And wait till you hear how she justifies being into a teenager.
Well, then I'm around Anthony, and he looks at me like I'm young and attractive.
So yeah, long story short, Lois makes out with Meg's boyfriend. If you ask me, this is a clear case of jealousy, and it's just one of many examples. At the end of the day, Lois is the type of person that can't stand seeing other people get what they want, and definitely won't tolerate Meg enjoying her youth. The fact that her daughter has her whole life ahead of her basically drives Lois off a cliff. All this points back to one fact. She's a terrible mother. Like, forget being someone that cares about her children. It seems like Lois actively makes their lives worse. This one time, Stewie gets noticed by some executives at a peanut butter brand, and Lois is pretty much immediately ready to sell her kid off to the highest bidder.
It's a royalty check from Stewie's commercial. Apparently he gets paid every time it airs.
Lois now officially has dollar signs in her eyes, and there's no way she's going to pass an opportunity like this up. She immediately heads out to blow Stewie's first every check.
You know, this is a nice dinner and all, but I thought you guys were going to save this commercial money for Stewie's college fund.
We are saving it, Brian. This is just a little celebration.
As if that wasn't enough, Lois finds out that Stewie has an audition for another commercial. Now, Brian tries to tell her just how bad the life of a child actor can be, but Lois just can't hear him through the sound of all that money hitting her wallet. Lois's narcissism flares up again when she starts getting a little competitive with one of the other moms. Now, Stewie tries his best at the audition, but a little mishap leaves him writhing in pain on the floor. Once again, Lois only cares about herself.
Num 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 num.
Shut up! That's over!
Later that night, poor little Stewie's forced to dance until he's about to pass out. All so that Lois can satisfy her enormous ego.
It's 3 in the morning. What the hell are you guys doing?
What does it look like? We're practicing.
The next day, Lois literally threatens her own son to make sure he does a good job.
If you screw this up, Mommy's gonna kill all of your toys.
But who are we kidding? This woman clearly doesn't care about her baby boy. I mean, she didn't even remember that Stewie had his first day of preschool until Brian reminded her.
This big boy has his first whole day of preschool today.
Oh my god, is it September already?
And her abuse isn't just limited to Stewie either. Remember when I talked about her getting hooked on Brian's sleeping pills? Yeah, this is why he needed those pills. Lois could barely care less about the pain Brian's in. She just wants to take pictures and show them off to all her friends. And let's not forget the fact that she actively hates Meg. Like, she would let her own daughter fall and drown to death if she could.
Pretend I'm your child, Lois! Not Meg, not Meg!
And get this, Lois usually thinks she's being a great mom. Like that time she dragged Meg to the spring break blowout. Meg starts getting crap from her friends for bringing her mom along to spring break, so things are already off to a bad start. And they get even worse when Lois's inner party animal comes alive. Like, the whole point of going here was to give Meg a bit of self-esteem boost. But wouldn't you know it, Lois makes it all about herself.
Mom!
Hey, what are you doing here?
What am I doing here? I've been waiting out here for hours.
Yep, Lois left her daughter outside so she could go and party, and she's so drunk that she doesn't even realize that what she did was wrong.
What?
You were supposed to pop inside real quick and find someone who looked enough like me so I could use their ID.
What?
Mother of the Year, everybody. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Lois is probably the thing that holds the Griffin family back the most. Between her narcissism, addiction issues, and her general disregard for other people's well-being, Lois has done all the sins. Speaking of which, you can click to see the 7 deadly sins as Family Guy characters here.